Welcome to Heartfelt Revenge Stories. 3 weeks ago, I sat in a courtroom and watched my own mother break down in tears, but she wasn't crying for me. No, she was crying because a judge asked her a single question she couldn't answer. My name is Ruby. I'm 27 years old, and my older sister Natalie stole my identity. She opened 7 credit cards in my name. She racked up $78,000 in debt while I was grinding through 60-hour weeks, saving every penny for my first real home. And when I discovered what she'd done, my parents looked me in the eye and told me to forgive her. She's family, they said. You can work it out. You can pay it off slowly. So I filed a police report. And at Natalie's arraignment, my parents showed up, but not for me. They testified against me. They called me vindictive. They called me heartless. They begged the judge to let my sister walk free. The judge listened to every word. Then she asked one question. Just one. But before I tell you what that question was, please subscribe and like this video and listen to my story till the end, and let me know which city you're listening from. That way, I can see how far my story has traveled. Now, let me take you back 4 weeks to the morning when a single notification on my phone unraveled everything I thought I knew about my family. I've always been good with numbers. It's probably why I became a staff accountant at a mid-size firm in Phoenix. It's why I track every dollar, every purchase, every single transaction that leaves my account. And it's why, at 27, I had a credit score of 780 and a down payment saved for my first place. My studio was tiny, 400 square feet of beige carpet and a window overlooking a parking lot. But it was mine, paid for with my own money. No help from anyone. That's how it's always been. Growing up, I was the easy child. My older sister Natalie needed attention. She needed reassurance. She needed constant help. She's 4 years older than me, but somehow she's always been the one our parents worried about. Natalie's sensitive, Mom would say. She feels things more deeply than you do, Ruby. I learned early on that asking for things meant taking from Natalie, so I stopped asking. I paid my own way through college, scholarships, part-time jobs, ramen noodles 3 nights a week. Natalie? Mom and Dad covered her tuition, her apartment, her car insurance until she was 25. I never complained. What was the point? You're so independent, Dad told me once, like it was a compliment, like I'd chosen this instead of having it forced on me. I didn't know then that my independence made me the perfect target. I didn't know that my silence, my self-sufficiency, my endless ability to handle things alone, all of it had been noted, cataloged, weaponized. But I'm getting ahead of myself. 4 weeks ago, I still believed that family meant something, that blood was thicker than betrayal. I was about to learn how wrong I was. 2 months before everything fell apart, we had a family dinner at my parents' house. It was Natalie's idea. She'd been posting about reconnecting with family on Instagram, and Mom absolutely ate it up. I drove 45 minutes after work to be there, brought a bottle of wine, set the table without being asked. When Natalie walked in, late, of course, Mom practically ran to hug her. "Oh my God, is that a new bag?" Mom's eyes lit up at Natalie's designer purse. I recognized it. Coach, had to be at least $500. "Honey, you shouldn't be spending like that if you're struggling." Natalie just smiled, tossing her blonde hair over her shoulder. "Don't worry, Mom, I've got it handled." Nobody asked where I got my bag. Nobody asked about anything. During dinner, the conversation orbited around Natalie, her job at the boutique, her new apartment, her dating life. Mom leaned in, concerned. "Do you have enough for rent this month, sweetheart?" I tried once. "I'm actually saving for a down payment on a place, should be ready to buy in a few months." Mom nodded absently. "That's nice, honey. Ruby, can you clear the plates?" Later, Natalie cornered me in the kitchen. "Hey, can I borrow your laptop real quick? I need to check my email. My phone's almost dead." "Sure." I handed it over without thinking. She disappeared into the living room for 20 minutes. I didn't think anything of it. Why would I? She was my sister. I didn't know she was scrolling through my saved documents, my cloud storage, the folder I'd stupidly labeled important documents. I didn't know that dinner was reconnaissance, but I'd figure it out soon enough. I should tell you about the time Natalie and I lived together 3 years ago, right after I graduated. She needed a roommate, I needed cheap rent. It made sense. For 8 months, we shared a 2-bedroom apartment in Tempe, and because she was my sister, because I trusted her completely, I never hid anything. She saw my mail, my bank statements, my social security card when I was filling out paperwork for my new job. "What's your social?" she'd asked once, casually, while I was sorting through documents on the couch. "Why?" "I'm updating the emergency contact info on my phone plan. Want to add you?" I rattled off the 9 digits without hesitation. She's my sister, I thought. What's she going to do? Commit identity theft? Laughs bitterly. There were other moments too, small ones, easy to forget. "Hey, what was our old address? The one on Mill Avenue. I need it for a background check." "What's Mom's maiden name again? I always forget." "When's your birthday? I want to send you something." I answered every question, handed over every piece of information she asked for, because that's what family does, right? You don't keep secrets from your own blood. I was building her a key, one piece at a time, and I didn't even know there was a lock. 3 years later, I was about to find out exactly what she'd done with all those little details, all those innocent questions. My phone was about to buzz, a notification was about to pop up, and my entire life was about to collapse like a house of cards built on the lie that my sister would never hurt me. It was 7:42 a.m. on a Tuesday. The notification popped up while I was brushing my teeth. "Credit score alert. Your score has changed." I almost ignored it. My credit score never changed. I paid everything on time, kept my utilization low, did all the boring, responsible things that nobody thanks you for. But something made me tap it. The number that loaded made me drop my toothbrush. 412? 412? That couldn't be right. 3 months ago, I was at 780. You don't drop 368 points from a late payment or a hard inquiry. That kind of drop means something catastrophic. My hands were shaking when I pulled up the full credit report. 7 credit cards I'd never opened. 2 personal loans I'd never applied for. All in my name. All maxed out or defaulted. Total debt $78,470. I sat down on the edge of my bathtub because my legs wouldn't hold me anymore. Capital One, Discover, Chase, Amex, names I recognized, accounts I'd never seen. The oldest one had been open for 18 months. I called the first number I could find. My voice didn't sound like mine. There has to be a mistake. I've never opened a Capital One card in my life. The silence on the other end lasted too long. "Ma'am, we show 7 accounts under your social security number, all in good standing until 2 months ago. Would you like me to read you the billing addresses on file?" "Yes." She read an address, my parents' address. The room started spinning. "Ma'am, are you still there?" I was there, but the person I'd been 5 minutes ago, the one who believed in her family, she was already gone. What would you do in this situation? Would you confront your family first or go straight to the police? Drop an A or B in the comments and stick around because what I discovered next made everything so much worse. 5 years. That's how long I'd been saving for a down payment. 5 years of 60-hour weeks. 5 years of saying no to vacations, no to concerts, no to the little luxuries that make life feel less like survival. I'd been pre-approved for a mortgage just last week. The real estate agent had already sent me 3 listings. One had a balcony. A real balcony, not a fire escape someone stuck a plant on. I called her that afternoon. Her voice went from warm to awkward in seconds. "Ruby, I don't know how to tell you this. The lender pulled your updated credit report this morning. They've rescinded the pre-approval. There's been a mistake. I'm fixing it." "I'm sorry, they won't work with a score below 620, and yours is 412. Silence. "I'm so sorry, Ruby." I hung up before she could say anything else. The apartment with the balcony was gone. The future I'd been building, brick by careful brick, had crumbled overnight. Not because I made a mistake, not because I was irresponsible, because someone decided my future was theirs to take. I pulled up the credit card statements online, the ones I could access with enough security questions and hold times. The transactions painted a picture. Nordstrom, Sephora, a resort in Sedona, first-class airfare to Las Vegas, a spa weekend in Scottsdale, 18 months of luxury. Someone had been living very well on my name, and every single charge, every single bill, every single default, it all traced back to one IP address, my parents' house. I knew who lived there. I knew who always needed money. I knew who had asked me for my social security number 3 years ago. But I still didn't want to believe it. I spent that night on my laptop, cross-referencing every transaction with every piece of evidence I could find. The timeline was damning. A charge at Nordstrom on March 15th, Natalie's Instagram post the next day, a new cashmere sweater, treat yourself. A booking at a resort in Sedona in June, her stories from that weekend, champagne by the pool, canyon views, living my best life. She hadn't even tried to hide it. Why would she? She never expected me to find out. But the transaction that broke something inside me was dated September 23rd, my birthday. A $3,200 charge at the Gucci store in Scottsdale. I scrolled through Natalie's Instagram until I found it. A photo from September 24th, her new designer bag gleaming in the Arizona sun. Sometimes you just have to treat yourself, the caption read. Heart emoji, shopping bag emoji, living my best life. She'd bought herself a Gucci bag on my birthday, with money attached to my name, money I'd be legally responsible for. I sat in my car in my apartment parking lot for an hour. The engine was off, the windows were up, the Arizona heat was suffocating, but I couldn't move. Part of me wanted to be wrong. Part of me was already making excuses. Maybe she was desperate. Maybe she planned to pay it back. Maybe this was some misunderstanding I'd laugh about later. The other part looked at that Gucci bag and felt something I'd never felt toward my sister before. Rage. I had two choices: pretend I didn't see it and pay for my sister's lifestyle for the next decade, or make the call that would tear my family apart. I started the car. I drove to my parents' house. Natalie's car was in the driveway when I pulled up. Of course it was. I didn't knock. I used my key, the one Mom insisted I keep for emergencies. This felt like an emergency. She was in the living room, scrolling through her phone on the couch I'd helped my parents pick out 3 Christmases ago. She looked up when I walked in, surprised but not alarmed. "Ruby, what are you doing here?" I didn't sit, didn't take off my shoes, just stood in the doorway and asked the question that had been burning a hole in my chest for the past 6 hours. "Natalie, did you open credit cards in my name?" Her face went through 3 expressions in 2 seconds. Confusion, recognition, practiced innocence. "What? That's insane. Why would I do that?" "The IP address is this house. The billing address is this house. The purchases match your Instagram posts." She blinked, set down her phone, stood up slowly. "Okay, fine." Her voice shifted, harder now, defensive. But I was going to pay it back. $78,000. You don't understand how hard things have been for me. I tried one last time. I owed myself that much. "Fine," I said. "You don't want me to go to the police? Then help me fix this." Mom looked up from comforting Natalie. "How?" "A payment plan. You, Dad, and Natalie sign something official, a repayment agreement. We get it notarized. Natalie pays back the money over time. I don't press charges." It was more than fair. It was generous. "We don't have that kind of money," Mom said. "I'm not asking for a lump sum. I'm asking for accountability." Natalie's tears had stopped. She was watching me now with something cold in her eyes. "I can't sign anything legal," she said. "What if I can't make the payments? You'd sue me?" "You already owe me $78,000. I'm trying to keep this out of court." Silence. Dad shifted his weight. Mom's hands stilled on Natalie's back. So your solution, I said slowly, is that I pay for Natalie's crimes out of my own pocket for the next decade. Mom sighed like I was being dramatic. You'll figure it out, Ruby. You always do. Those 6 words. You'll figure it out. You always do. The mantra of my entire childhood. The excuse they'd used every time they chose Natalie over me. The reason I'd spent my whole life being self-sufficient, because I knew, even as a kid, that no one was coming to save me. I looked at my mother, at my father, who still wouldn't meet my eyes, at my sister, already checking her phone like this conversation was boring her. And I made my decision. You're right, I said, picking up my keys. I will figure it out, just not the way you want me to. I walked out without looking back. The next morning, I told Marcus. Marcus Rivera worked 2 cubicles down from me. Corporate law wasn't his specialty. He mostly handled contracts and compliance, but he'd passed the bar, and right now, he was the closest thing I had to legal counsel. We sat in the break room during lunch. I laid it all out. The credit cards, the loans, the family meeting, my parents' refusal to help. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he set down his coffee. Ruby, this isn't a family dispute. This is identity theft, federal crime. I know. She could face up to 15 years. My stomach dropped. 15 years? That's the maximum. Realistically, first offense, she'd probably get probation and restitution. But you have every right to press charges. She's my sister, and she treated you like an ATM. He leaned forward. I've seen this before. People who steal from family count on one thing, that family won't report them. The moment you file that report, you take that power away. What if I'm wrong? What if there's an explanation? Is there? I thought about the IP address, the billing address, the Instagram posts, the Gucci bag purchased on my birthday. No, then you're not wrong. He pulled out his phone, typed something, slid it across the table. Phoenix Police Department, Financial Crimes Unit, and you'll want to file an FTC complaint too. They handle identity theft. I stared at the number. Everything you need is already in writing, Marcus said. The credit reports, the IP address, the transaction history. The police will subpoena the rest. You don't have to prove anything yourself. I saved the number. I didn't call it that day, but I didn't delete it either. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept scrolling through old text conversations with Natalie. Years of messages, birthday wishes, memes, random updates about nothing. And then I started noticing patterns. 3 years ago, right after we stopped being roommates. Hey, what's your old address? The one on Mill Avenue. I need it for a background check. I'd sent it without question. 2.5 years ago. Do you remember Mom's maiden name? I forgot, and I need it for some form. I replied, Williams. Why? Just some bank thing. Thanks, sis. 2 years ago. What's your birthday again? I want to send you something. She knew my birthday. She'd been to 25 of them, but I typed it out anyway. September 23rd. And then 18 months ago, 1 week before the first fraudulent credit card. 3 weeks of silence. No calls from Mom, no texts from Dad. Natalie blocked me on everything. Instagram, Facebook, even LinkedIn, as if I'd tried to network with her after this. I went to work, came home, checked my credit report obsessively, waited. Then Detective Ford called. Miss Carter, we have enough to proceed. The DA is pressing charges. I sat down on my kitchen floor because my legs wouldn't hold me. What charges? Identity theft, credit card fraud, mail fraud. She redirected some of your statements to your parents' address. A pause. She's looking at 5 to 15 years if convicted. 15 years? I repeated. That's the maximum. Realistically, with no prior record, she'll likely get a plea deal, probation, restitution, maybe some community service. Another pause. But there's something else you should know. What? During our investigation, we found another victim, a former roommate of your sister's from about 6 years ago. Same pattern. Credit cards, small loans. She never pressed charges. The floor tilted. I'm not the first? No, you're just the first one who didn't stay quiet. I closed my eyes. All those years of thinking I was special, the trusted sister, the one Natalie would never hurt. I wasn't special, I was just next in line. There's an arraignment scheduled for next Thursday, Detective Ford continued. You'll receive a summons as a material witness. I have to testify? Eventually, but the arraignment is just the formal reading of charges. You don't have to speak, you just have to be there. I thanked her and hung up. Next Thursday, in 7 days, I would sit in a courtroom and watch my sister answer for what she did. I wasn't ready, but I'd be there anyway. The Maricopa County Superior Courthouse was all sharp angles and fluorescent lights. I'd worn my most professional outfit, a navy blazer, white blouse, hair pulled back, armor. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Wood paneling, hard benches, a seal of Arizona behind the judge's chair, a handful of people waiting for other cases, a court reporter setting up her machine. I took a seat in the third row, witness section, the bailiff had said. I clasped my hands in my lap to stop them from shaking. Natalie was already there, at the defendant's table. She looked different. No makeup, hair limp, wearing a gray cardigan instead of her usual designer pieces. Her lawyer, a thin man with silver hair, was whispering something in her ear. She didn't look at me. I stared at the back of her head and waited. Then the doors opened. I turned, expecting another stranger, another case. It was my parents. Mom in her Sunday dress, Dad in the sport coat he wore to weddings and funerals. They walked down the center aisle, and for one moment, one stupid, desperate moment, I thought they'd come for me. They walked right past my row. They sat down directly behind Natalie. Mom reached forward and squeezed Natalie's shoulder. Dad nodded at her lawyer. My mother turned her head. Our eyes met. Her expression was stone. All rise, the bailiff called, the Honorable Patricia Coleman presiding. The judge entered, a black woman in her late 50s, glasses perched on her nose, moving with the efficiency of someone who'd seen 1,000 cases just like this one. But she hadn't seen this one yet. She didn't know what my parents were about to do. Neither did I. The arraignment began routinely. Charges were read. Natalie pleaded not guilty, her voice small and trembling. Bail was discussed. Then her lawyer stood. Your Honor, we have 2 character witnesses who would like to speak on behalf of the defendant, her parents, Richard and Linda Carter. Judge Coleman glanced at the prosecution. Any objection? No, Your Honor. Very well. Mrs. Carter, please take the stand. Mom walked to the witness box like she was approaching an altar. She placed her hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth. Then she looked at me. My daughter Natalie made a mistake, she began. She's not a criminal. She's a good girl who got in over her head. The prosecutor stayed silent. This was an arraignment, not a trial. Character statements were unusual, but not prohibited. And Ruby, Mom continued, her voice hardening, Ruby has always been jealous of her sister. She's vindictive. She's always held grudges. I stopped breathing. Ruby is using this situation to destroy our family, over money. Mom's voice cracked. My daughter Natalie doesn't deserve to have her life ruined because her sister is bitter and resentful. Dad took the stand next. His testimony was shorter, but no less devastating. Natalie was going to pay it back, he said. Ruby never gave her a chance. She went straight to the police without even talking to us first. That was a lie. I had talked to them. I had begged for a payment plan. But I couldn't speak. Witnesses don't get to interrupt. I sat in that courtroom, my parents' words hanging in the air like poison, and felt every eye turn towards me. The vindictive daughter, the family destroyer, the victim no one believed. Let me pause here. I need you to really hear what just happened. My mother stood in front of a judge, under oath, and called me vindictive for reporting a crime committed against me for $78,000 I didn't spend. My own mother. If you've ever felt betrayed by someone who was supposed to protect you, you know this feeling. Let me know in the comments. Have you ever been in a situation where your family chose? 6 weeks later, Natalie took the plea deal. I wasn't there for the sentencing. My lawyer said I didn't need to be, but Detective Ford called me afterward with the details. She pleaded guilty to identity theft and credit card fraud, Ford said. The mail fraud charge was dropped as part of the agreement. What's her sentence? 2 years suspended, 5 years probation, 200 hours of community service. A pause. And full restitution to you, $78,000 plus interest. She'll be making monthly payments until it's paid off. I did the math in my head. At her income level, that would take at least 10 years, maybe longer. What else? No contact order. She can't approach you, call you, email you, or contact you through third parties. If she violates probation, misses a payment, fails a check-in, anything, she goes to prison to serve the full 2 years. And her record? Felony conviction. It'll show up on every background check for the rest of her life. I sat in my apartment, phone pressed to my ear, trying to feel something. Triumph, maybe. Relief? Justice. What I felt was exhaustion. Miss Carter, are you still there? Yeah, I'm here. You did the right thing. I know it doesn't feel like it, but you did. Does it get easier, knowing you sent your own sister to... I stopped. Knowing you reported your own family? You didn't send her anywhere. Her choices did. Detective Ford's voice softened. Take care of yourself, Miss Carter. You've earned it. She hung up. I looked around my small studio apartment, the same 400 square feet of beige carpet, the same window facing the parking lot. But something was different now. I was different. 3 days after the sentencing, Dad called. I almost didn't answer, but something, curiosity maybe, or that stubborn hope I couldn't quite kill, made me pick up. Ruby? His voice was tired, older than I remembered. Can we talk? Just the two of us? Not your mother. We met at a coffee shop halfway between our houses, neutral territory. He looked smaller in person, deflated, like someone had let the air out of him. I'm not here to apologize for your mother, he said, staring at his untouched coffee. She's not ready for that. Maybe she never will be. Then why are you here? Because I should have said something, at the house, at the court. He swallowed. I knew it was wrong, what Natalie did, what we were asking you to accept. I didn't know how to fix it. You didn't have to fix it, Dad. You just had to stand next to me. Silence. I know. His voice cracked. I know that now. We sat there for an hour. He didn't fully apologize, not the way I needed him to, but he acknowledged what happened. He admitted he'd failed me. It wasn't enough, but it was something. I set my boundaries before I left. I won't be at any family events where Natalie is present. You can call me, but we're not discussing her. And Mom can reach out when she's ready to have a real conversation, not one where she's defending Natalie or blaming me. Ruby? Those are my terms, Dad. Take them or leave them. He nodded slowly. Okay, I can do that. I drove home alone. One relationship salvageable, one uncertain, one dead. That would have to be enough. 6 months after the trial, I got my first restitution check, $472, a fraction of what Natalie owed me, but it was something, proof that consequences existed, that actions had weight. I deposited it into my savings account and watched the number grow. My credit score had climbed from 412 to 580, still not great, but improving. Every month, the fraudulent accounts were being removed. Every month, I was getting a piece of myself back. At work, something unexpected happened. My boss called me into her office. I thought I was in trouble. Instead, she offered me a promotion. "I heard about what you went through," she said. "Not the details, just the broad strokes. Takes a lot of integrity to pursue something like that when family's involved." It wasn't about integrity, it was about survival. That's the same thing, sometimes. I got a raise, a new title, an office with a window. Small, but mine. The apartment with the balcony was long gone, but I found another one, closing in 8 months. The down payment was almost ready. I still lived in my studio, still tracked every dollar, but the tracking felt different now, less like survival, more like building, less like hiding, more like growing. I had therapy every other week, a support group for identity theft victims once a month. Turns out there's a lot of us. Turns out family members are the most common perpetrators. I wasn't alone. I'd never been alone. I just hadn't known where to look. One night, I stood in my kitchen making dinner for myself and realized I was humming. I couldn't remember the last time I'd done that. Healing isn't a straight line, but I was finally walking it. People ask me if I regret it, pressing charges, losing my family, watching my mother cry in a courtroom and feeling nothing but vindication. The honest answer? Sometimes. Some nights I still reach for my phone to text Natalie something stupid, a meme, a memory, a question only she would understand. Then I remember, and the absence hits all over again. I miss the sister I thought I had. I miss Sunday dinners where I felt like part of something. I miss the fantasy of a family that put me first, even though that fantasy was never real. But I don't regret choosing myself. For 27 years, I was the easy one, the one who didn't need anything, the one who handled things so everyone else could fall apart. That Ruby is gone. The Ruby I am now has boundaries, clear, non-negotiable boundaries. I don't share personal information with anyone, family or otherwise, without a reason. I don't accept guilt trips as arguments. I don't sacrifice my well-being so other people can avoid discomfort. And I don't confuse love with tolerance for mistreatment. My mother said I destroyed our family. Maybe she's right, but here's what I've learned. If a family only stays together when one person agrees to be destroyed, then it was never really a family. It was a system, and I was the load-bearing wall. The moment I stopped carrying, the whole thing collapsed. But that's not my fault. That's just physics. Tell me in the comments, and if you've dealt with something similar, share your story. You're not alone. Subscribe for more stories about standing your ground and reclaiming your life. If you're watching this and you've ever had to choose between keeping the peace and keeping your self-respect, I want to hear your story. Drop it in the comments. We're all in this together. And remember, you are allowed to stop being the easy one. Before I go, I want to share something I learned in therapy. My therapist asked me once why I thought Natalie did what she did. I said she was selfish, greedy, a bad person. She shook her head. Your sister isn't evil. She's broken in a specific way. Here's what I've come to understand. Natalie was the golden child who never developed her own identity. Our parents protected her so much that she never learned to handle failure, disappointment, responsibility. When life got hard, she didn't have coping skills. She had shopping, she had denial, she had me. She used my identity because she didn't have one of her own. That doesn't make it okay, it doesn't make it forgivable, but it makes it understandable. And me? I was the invisible child, the one who learned early that my needs didn't matter, that asking for help was pointless, that independence was the price of survival. I gave Natalie my social security number because I never learned that I had the right to say no, even to family, especially to family. So here's what I want you to take from my story. First, trust is earned, not automatic. Blood doesn't equal safety. Second, people who call you dramatic for setting boundaries are usually the ones who benefit from you having none. Third, protecting yourself isn't betrayal. It's not cruelty. It's survival. You are allowed to refuse to be used. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to walk away from people who only see you as a resource. even if those people raised you, even if those people share your blood, even if those people call it love. That's my story. Thanks for listening. Thank you for staying with me through this whole story. If any part of it resonated with you, if you've ever felt invisible in your own family, or had to make an impossible choice between peace and self-respect, I see you. Please share your story in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want more stories like this, hit subscribe and check the description for related videos. Take care of yourself. You deserve it.